I will just do an acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge and respect the traditional custodians whose ancestral lands we're meeting upon here today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationships of Aboriginal peoples to country. We also pay respects to the cultural authorities of Aboriginal people visiting or attending from other areas of South Australia present here. Okay. I think I might skip these other slides that I have, and we might just get straight into me sharing my screen. The format for today, and as I said, because there's only a few of us here, I'm happy to be flexible, is I normally just go through the apps that are available for people through the Microsoft 365 package, show some examples of how schools are using these, and then have a little bit of a deeper dive into Teams. You're all, apart from Sonia, admin, so I won't talk about class Teams at all. I might just talk about Teams from a school point of view rather than a teacher class point of view. But feel free to stop me and ask questions, come off mute as we go along. So let me just bring this one across and share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing my screen now. Can you just give me a thumbs up with their reaction if you can see my screen? Thanks, Kylie. So basically the place where people can access all of the Microsoft 365 apps is from office.com. So Microsoft is changing their name. It's been on the cards for a while, but there is now a banner. It's not on this screen because I've turned it off, but a banner that appears at the top, and they've got a different logo. So keep an eye out for that. But this is the home page. Sometimes people get a bit worried because they might see documents that other people have created here. It just means that people have shared that document. And Sonia, you're going to remind me to make my screen bigger, I think. So
yeah,
let me see if I can do that.
Glasses and so do you, and I don't know whether it's me or what, but yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. I have to come really close. I'll clean my glasses.
Okay. Sorry, the way, from this screen as well, there's this button here that sometimes people miss, which is the install Office. So when you're an employee with the department, you have access to 5 copies of Office or Microsoft 365. However, if you cease employment with the department, you will lose access to those, to that app. So you'll have to pay for your own subscription. But you can install Office through this little button here on, for example, your home computer, if you'd like. There are some key apps down the side here, but if you go to the top hamburger menu, you can see all the apps here that you have access to, as well as some recent files as well. If you click on the All Apps button now, and then explore all your apps, it also brings them up in a nicer to see format. So some of these you'd be familiar with already with the offline version. So for example, Excel, Outlook, and some you might not be familiar with. So we start off just by looking at OneDrive. Do you all use OneDrive already? You can just give me a thumbs up or come off mute.
I do, and you told me about putting the photos up and And I've got a lot of stuff on OneDrive I didn't realise I had on there because I didn't even know it existed. So it was automatically loading it up.
Perfect. So it sounds like you all do use OneDrive already. So that's fantastic. You all know about being able to see who's viewed files before. You can just come off mute or give me a thumbs up. Thanks, Kylie. It sounds like you're a pro. Okay, not really. So I'll just quickly show Sonia just in case. So if in OneDrive, if you've shared files with people, you'll see that little person icon down there. So I'm just going to go into one where I know I've shared some files. Try this one. Okay, so this one here, if I hover over it, I can see who's viewed it. So I can see that there was 16 views, and this was one I shared in an earlier training, which is why your name is there, Sonia. And I can see the details as well on the side there. I can also manage access. So if I don't want people to access that file anymore, I can do that here. There's also your teams along the side, and you can bookmark teams that are important. So for example, this team here I use quite a bit. I can now access my files in OneDrive from the OneDrive app rather than going through Teams as well. Okay, also to note, in OneDrive you have 1 terabyte of storage, and although you, by default, you can only share with people within the department with OneDrive, you can put in a request to share with outside people outside the department if you have a business case. So for example, if you wanted to share a folder with someone from Governing Council, Julie, you could put in a request to the service desk to have that enabled for that particular folder. Okay, so let's go back to our All Apps. In fact, I'm just going to go back up here. And the next app we're going to go into is our OneNote. Do you currently use OneNote, Sonia and Julie? Yes, thanks, Julie.
I think I've tried to use it. You use it for notes, don't you? You put in information and it saves it automatically.
Yeah, so
one of my other colleagues uses it a lot, but I'm not too cluey on it. Yeah.
Okay, so OneNote is used for notes. Julie, how do you use it normally? Yeah, notes and meetings. So some schools use it, for example, as a way to record their staff meetings. Because the nice thing about OneNote is, and if I go into example one here, the nice thing about OneNote is that instead of having to open up lots of files all the time, everything's stored in the one place. So I can quickly go to pages in my OneNote rather than having to go and open up lots of different documents. So it's basically like one of those folders with all the different tabs that you used to have, and you break it up into different sections. It's basically an electronic copy of one of those. I use it for all sorts of things. As a teacher, I used it for teaching, but in my current role, I use it for recording meetings. I normally take pictures of my notes and paste them straight into a OneNote page as well from my mobile phone. And also we have a team notebook as a team. where we write down things that are important for the team. Let's go back to the old notes. Okay, so the next one we have a look at is Sway. So Sway is only an online app. It can't be installed on the desktop. And this is an online presentation tool. Julie, is your school using Sway at all? Perfect, yep. So the examples we normally show for Sway are newsletters. So this is Wakerville's primary schools, which might look similar to yours, Julie. But as well as newsletters, some schools are using it for student portfolios, for example. So I know that Seaton High School uses it as their method for students to present their portfolios. One of the reasons why is that sways can be shared outside. So like a newsletter can be shared with your wider school community, if students create a portfolio in Sway, that can also be shared with potential employers and people like that outside of school. Another example for Sway is that you could use it for a presentation for a staff PD session, for example. The two examples I showed you were vertical sways. This is another type of sway, which is a horizontal sway. And you can see it's quite nice the way that it's organized, the pages. And you can easily embed things like YouTube clips. Okay, let's go back to the All Apps. And let's look at forms now. If I can find my forms, there it is. So forms again is one of those apps that is only available online. And it is getting an update. So soon it will show two buttons here. In fact, let's see if I can force it. Yeah, so this is what forms will look like for everyone in a couple of months, so that you've got a new quiz and a new form. And there's a few other things that are happening in forms as well. So you can now import a PDF file, for example, and it will turn it into a form for you. So forms, again, you can share outside. So for example, if you're wanting people to register to help, you can send a form out to parents and get them to respond. But you can also, as a teacher, use it for assessment. So for example, if I wanted formative or summative assessment, I could do that through forms. In the pipeline coming very soon is the possibility for quizzes to be timed. So if you want students only to have 30 minutes, for example, to complete the quiz, that's coming in an update that should be released fairly soon. Okay, so let's go back to All Apps. Teams we leave for the moment, and I'll just show you Whiteboard. So Whiteboard is available as a desktop app. One of the ways you can use Whiteboard is that you can embed it into a Teams meeting so that all the people in the Teams call can access that. So from an admin or SSO point of view, that might be where you might use Whiteboard. It's basically just a space. You've got a set of tools. You can add text. If you've got a touch screen, you can draw. But it also, and let me just move this across, also has a whole lot of templates in there that are pre-built that you can place directly in. and then manipulate. So if you were having a team meeting, for example, you could do this. If you were using it with your class as well, there's a whole lot of templates that are specifically for learning. So there's a brainstorming one that's more suited for students, exit tickets, the good old KWL, etc. So that's something that is a good way and can be shared directly within Teams, a good way for people to collaborate. The last one is Stream. Now, Stream has been around for a while, and the current version might look a little bit different to what you're used to. So Stream, let me just go into this one. Did used to look like this. And you used to be able to have channels and all sorts of things, but this version of Stream is being discontinued at the end of next year. So if you do have any videos currently on Stream that looks like this, you'll need to migrate them to the new version of Stream by the end of next year, but there will be lots of communication that comes out before you need to do that. But the new version of Stream looks a bit like that or this, and it's just picking out all the videos that I have shared or have saved that I'm the owner of or that someone shared with me that are saved in Teams or in OneDrive. So it looks quite different from the old version of Stream. It's basically just a video player. So it just allows me to view videos. Okay, so there are two more that I just mentioned. So bookings is one that might be of interest to you, Julie. Some schools are using this for parent-teacher interviews. So you can set aside different times and get parents to make or book in times. So if you don't currently have something available for that purpose, that might be something to investigate. And the other one is Planner. So Planner is kind of like a Trello board style app, which allows you to create cards for different tasks and then assign different activities or different people to those cards. So again, probably you can use it with a class or have students use it with a class, Sonia, if they're planning and doing work group. But that one also might be good for staff if you've got meetings where you want to make sure that actions from the meetings are properly outlined and staff are assigned to those. There used to be an issue with Planner in that comments weren't saved, but that's recently been fixed. So that might be one to have a look at as well. Okay, so the second bit of the session is looking at Teams. Because you've been using Teams a bit, both of you, please let me know if you already know how to do something, and I'll stop and show you something else. But hopefully you get something out of this session as well. So let me just bring up my Teams. First of all, I'm not sure if you know this, but recently you've been able to now send messages to yourself. So if you're in Teams and this is the desktop version, and in the chat, there's this icon up here. Normally I click on that icon and enter someone's name, but if I enter myself, now that allows me to send messages to myself. So this for me is a way to send myself files if I don't want to use OneDrive or copy links that are important that I think might be useful for me to come up to see later. There's also things that I pinned up the top here. So people that you might communicate with all the time, you might want to pin up the top here. So for example, maybe I want Nav, maybe I talk to him all the time. If I want to pin him up the top, I can go to those three dots and go pin, and then Nav will appear up here. So if I want to message him, I can click on him quickly and then send him a message. If I've stopped working with Nav because I've moved on to a different project and I don't want him pinned anymore, it's just those three dots again, and then unpin. And then he's appearing back in my messages down there. Also, if you're not aware, if you're in a meeting that's been booked through Teams, if I click here, I'll see that all the chat is in here. So if I scroll down, all meetings that I've had will appear as a purple dot, and I can go back in there and access any of the chat that's been in that meeting before as well. Okay, another thing that you might not be aware of is bookmarking. So if this message from Julie here was really, really important and I wanted to access that message in the future, on the individual message, so not down the side, but the individual message, I can click on the three dots there and I can go to save this message. Then later on, if I want to go back and find that message from Julie, I can go to the my name at the top and go to saved. And then that's going to bring up all the messages that are really important to me that I've saved. And when I click on that, it's on the same page. Let's go to this one and then go back. When I click on that, it's going to bring back that message that was really important. Again, if that message is no longer relevant, I've used what Julie said to me, I don't need to remember it anymore. I can just click on that bookmark save there, and then it disappears from my saved. Okay, let me go back to that chat there. Everything all right so far? You can just give me, yep, perfect. Okay, so the other thing in the chat, I might just quickly show you, if you're not aware already, is sometimes people type messages and instead of they finish the sentence and then they press enter and the message sends, and then they type another line and it's one message but it gets sent as several messages, and it can be really annoying because you might end up with 10 messages from one person all in a row, which could have been written as one message. So there are a couple of ways to avoid this. So if you hold down Shift Enter on your keyboard, so let's try again. If I want a new line now, instead of just pressing Enter, I'm going to press Shift Enter, and then it's going to give me a new line without sending the message. So now I can write. If I press enter without the shift, it's going to send it. Or if I want a new line, I can press shift enter again. and it won't send it until I press enter by itself or press the send button. Another way as well that I can avoid sending messages before I'm ready is there's this little A with a pen down here, and if I click on that, I can type and press enter as many times as I like without having to worry about it being sent. When I'm in this version as well, I can also use the formatting. So I can change what the font looks like. I can also change the color of the font as well, and also change the size. And your normal bold, italics, underlined, and with the line through. And then adding my tables if I'd like, quotations and a link as well. Okay, so what we might do now is, we might go in and we might create a team. Because although I've just done those messages there, if we have a look in Teams, there's one other thing that you can do in a Teams post that you can't do in a message. So we're going to Teams, and I'm going to go into Join or Create Team, and I'm going to create a team. Now, if you've created teams before, you might be familiar with this menu here. We suggest that if you're using Teams with students, you create it as a class. But for any other type of team, we suggest you ignore the staff and PLC team and just go with other. The reason why we suggest this is with the staff and the PLC team, the structure of the team is very rigid and it makes it hard to add extra things like extra notebooks if you want. The staff notebook is set up a bit like a class notebook with the structure, which can make things a bit difficult if that's the OneNote that you're using with your staff as well. So let's click on Other and give it a name. And press Next. So I can add people at the moment, or I can just skip. But for this team, I'm just going to skip. And then it's created it. So teams have a file storage of 25 terabytes per team. And the difference between Teams and OneDrive is that OneDrive should be where you keep your me files, so files that are personal, that are not going to be shared with the wider community or your wider teacher community. Whereas Teams is the me space, so any files that lots of people need to access or that you're working collaboratively on with more than one people should really be stored in a team. So let's go in and have a look at the settings first. So there's the three dots there. If I go in there and go to Manage Team, there's a few things in here that I want to have a look at before I go in and do some posting. So if I go into Settings, there's a few member permissions that I should be thinking about. If I go here, there's a few things here that I might want to change from the default. So if I've set up a team that's for teachers, I might want to get rid of this here, so allow members to delete and restore channels. And I might want to get rid of this one here as well, allow members to create private channels. Now, the reason why I might change these two is that if you allow members to delete channels, I have in the past seen teachers jump into the team, see all these channels that are not relevant to them, and then instead of hiding them, just deleting them, not realizing that when they delete them on their version of the team, it deletes it for everyone. So if you've set up the team and you're the owner, have a look at your settings and see whether that one's checked or not. And you might want to consider unchecking that if it is checked, just as a safeguard. You can go in and restore channels if they're deleted, but it does get a bit onerous if people are deleting them all the time. The other setting I said that you might want to change is the private channels setting. So private channels are channels that can be created with only a few members of the team in that channel. The only people that see that channel appear on their page are people that are in the channel. So if you've created a team and then somebody else in that team creates a private channel that doesn't include you, you won't be able to see that that private channel has been created. Then if the team needs to be deleted in the future, you won't be able to delete that team because of that private channel that someone else owns and belongs to and that is not visible to you. So if you untick that option, it means that only owners, I'll just go back to this page for a moment, only owners will have the ability to create those private channels. Reasons why you might want to create private channels, if it's a whole school team and maybe you've got people that are sitting on committees, you might want only a few people to have access to files and post that are in the finance committee channel, for example. Or if you're a teacher working with students, you might want to create private channels for a student that's working with an SSO, for example, and just have yourself, the student, and the SSO in that private channel. That channel will be visible for the student and the SSO and yourself, but anybody else in the team won't see that channel appear. I'll just go, actually, we might just create a private channel now that I've mentioned them, and then you can see what that looks like. Sonia, you've just said, oh no, are you all right?
I said, oh no, because you said that people go in and they delete.
Yes, yeah. So
my immediate reaction was, I know how that feels.
Yeah, so luckily you can restore it, but it might be wise to change the settings in the first place, rather than having to go in and restore things all the time.
We use Teams all the time with instrumental music, and it's more like a message, like information sending, and it's just at times there's just so much, too much. Like I've got a woodwind faculty, a brass faculty, we've got the general faculty, and then people start using like a chat line, and you've got files, and everything's just, it becomes really, it's just
so
where it can be.
Yeah,
and we use it for students and schools for open access stuff, but we haven't used it for a long time since, like, for students since I've gone back to school.
So students are similar in terms of permissions.
Yeah.
But if it's a class team though, I'd also think about allowing or not allowing members the option to delete messages or edit messages. The reason why I might untick those two is that there have been some cases where a student's written something really mean about another student, the other student's seen it, and then the person that originally wrote it went in and deleted it or edited it, and then there's no evidence that that has occurred. So if it is a class team that you're using with students, I would suggest unticking those two as well. so that you don't have that occur, so that you've got a record of everything that's been posted. On the note of Teams having lots of channels, are you both aware of how to hide a channel if it's not relevant to you? You just give me a thumbs up. Okay, so I might just go into a team that's got a few channels in it already. So I'll hop out of my example for a moment and I'll just go into the M365 team. If I can find it, here we go. So this team has got quite a few channels, but I have seen teams with like 20 channels. A good rule of thumb for channels and teams is that if you're creating a channel and there's going to be no posts in it, it shouldn't be a channel. If you're wanting it for the file section, it should just be a folder within files. So channels, if there's not any posts in there, shouldn't be a channel. But say I've come into this team, I really want to see the general and announcements, but I never use Sway, for example. I might want to hide that channel so it's not appearing in my long list of channels. I can click on those three dots there and just go hide. And then it's going to disappear. Now at the moment, it's just one hidden channel, but say I was going to hide lots, then it makes it less visually cluttered up the top here as well. Same with chat. I'll just go back to chat again. Again, I like having all my recent chats there so I can go back and find them. But say I didn't want all these here, I can also, in my chat, get rid of them. So say I've actioned something and I don't want to see that person's chat anymore, I can just go hide as well and that will disappear. Then if I go back and I want to see it again, let's hide someone I know. If I want to see those messages again, I can click up here and type in Jason's name. And then those messages, if I go show, will come back again. And then he should appear back there. So that's just something to think about if you're one of those people that gets a little bit overwhelmed with all the chats showing. You can go in and with those three dots and go hide. And same with teams. If you're anxious having all these teams that you never access showing, you can go in and do the three dots and go hide. If I've hidden a team or hidden a team by mistake that I need to access, again, it's simply a matter of going in and then clicking on show and it will pop back into my menu. There we go. Okay, I'm going to jump back into my test team again. While we're talking about hiding teams though, if you've got lots of teams showing that you don't use very often, you can hide a team as well. And then down the bottom, you've got hidden teams, so you can go in and see those teams again. So we're back into my test team. And I'm just going to show you one more thing about posting in Teams that some people are not aware of. So if I go new conversation in Teams, again, I'm going to go to that little A with the pen. And I'm going to make this one, I can do a new conversation or I can do an announcement. And this might be something about reports. So reports due for revision. Date extended. Reports can now be handed in at the end of week 7 instead of week 6. So there's this option here, post in model channels. So if I've maybe got several teams that need to know about this, or if I've got several channels, I can click on this option here, and then I can select channels. So this allows you to post that message across multiple teams. So I might have several teams that I want to post this to. But if it was for teachers in multiple channels within a team as well, and I know that those teachers only check that particular channel, I might want to post it across more channels within that one team as well. So now when I click update and click send, it's in this team here in the general channel. And then if I go back into my teams, I also posted it in this team here in the general channel. There's my reports due for revision. And I also posted it in this team here. And I posted it in the general channel, the year 3 spelling, the year 4 spelling as well. So this one's handy if you want to make sure that everyone that needs to see the message can see the message. So let's go back into that team again. The other thing about posting in multiple channels as well though, but if you edit it, it will change it in each place that it's posted in that channel. Okay, so another thing to think about in Teams is if I go into files here, so every channel that you create has a file section as well. There's a few things that are useful in files as well. Let's just drop a file in there though, so that it makes a little bit more sense. Here we go. So I've got my file in there. Also, if I look at the 3 dots within Teams, I've got a whole lot of things that I can do in here as well, like properties as well. One thing that's great if you've got OneDrive for Business on your computer is you can also sync your Teams files. So from the general channel, I'm going to go back 1 level into Documents. And then if I wanted to access this Teams files all the time, because I use this team a lot, let me just open up File Explorer. I can actually sync this team so that I can access those files from my computer in File Explorer as well. So if I click the sync here, I should now see on my computer in File Explorer that team is now visible here. And so then I can go in and access that folder and those files without having to go through my teams as well. So that's quite useful. Just remember that I'll make it big again. I might just change the view and make that a bit bigger as well. So just remember that when you're in the general channel, if you do the sync here, you'll only get that channel. So if I do another channel, so let's just add a channel. So if I was to just sync my general channel and my files, I wouldn't see anything in test 2, but because I've gone that one step back and I've gone back into here, I can see both my general channel and my test 2 folder. So that's really handy to know about if you're using that team a lot, because sometimes it's easier to just drag and drop and delete files from your computer file explorer rather than through Teams. Okay, well, I've gone a little bit off track, but hopefully what I've showed you today has been useful. Hopefully, Julie, you have discovered a few things, noting that you are familiar with Teams already, but hopefully I've given you a few things to think about. I will just finish by showing you a couple of other resources that you can access. So one of them is our Teams YouTube channel. So I'll just copy and paste that into the chat. So if you're ever stuck on how to do something, this is a great place to start. We've got lots of different playlists. So if I go into the Microsoft one, for example, there's a whole lot of videos that take you through all sorts of things to do with all sorts of apps that are part of the Microsoft suite. And you'll see that most of them are quite short. This Sway one is long because it takes you through how to build a newsletter step by step. But most of them are quite short, just showing you how to do something step by step. So it's worth bookmarking that if you haven't already. And then the other one to look at is the Educator Center. So this one is Microsoft's Educator Center, and that has also got a whole lot of, and I'll just pop this one into the chat as well. This one's also got a whole lot of professional development streams or courses that you can do in your own time. So if I put in Sway in here, for example, it's got a 1-hour module on digital storytelling. If I put in Teams, for example, it's got all sorts of information about structuring teams, teams for teaching, class teams with assignments, etc. So that's another great place to have a look at if you're looking for further professional development and to share with your team as well.